Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcasts with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more. Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first, in their covered wagons. They find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's blockchainfuturetechexpo.com. Thank you.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Future Tech Podcast. My name is Josh Thomas and I'm here with Jouko Ahvenainen from Grow VC Group. Hello, Jouko.
Hello, nice to be here. Thank you to invite me.
Oh, glad to have you. And so we were talking about this just before, really quick. We have people from all over the world who are guests on our podcast, and you have one of the most unique names that I've run into. And what is the heritage of that name?
I am originally from Finland, but I have done a very global business, something like 20 years, so that we have activities in the US, Europe, Asia, basically globally.
Okay, excellent. And so, Jouko, Grow VC Group is, you describe it as a mix of investing and holding companies focusing on Fintech. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in this.
It's interesting story because actually we started with crowdfunding, and I think that the starting point was really in 2009 that myself and my co-founder, who both of us had started many companies, we felt that the finance market is not working so well. And we thought that basically internet and all online models can make the finance model much more effective. So that we basically started the first equity crowdfunding service in the world. We officially started it in Hong Kong because, for example, in the US, all lawyers said to us that it's too risky to start something like this in the US. But we participated actually also in the work in the US, basically to modify the regulations so that nowadays equity crowdfunding is possible in the US and many other places. At the same time, we also realized that startup equity crowdfunding is not so excellent business, so that basically it's startup investing is always complex, but it's also that they are small investments. You need a lot of due diligence work and so on. And we realized that there are actually a lot of other opportunities in the fintech area as a whole. So we started to modify or even could I say, make a kind of pivot with our model so that we basically started to develop business in different areas of the fintech, and we came to a model that we are more like a holding company, that we have different companies that are doing, for example, technology, data and services in the finance sector, totally 10 companies globally.
Interesting. So you made this shift away from startups, which is first of all, every investment carries a high risk and the potential for the high reward. And so we're all looking for that big win. And you saw more opportunity in fintech. And are these mostly established businesses, or are they just startups in fintech?
I would say that they are mainly startups. But some of them, we have actually, we have companies that have been in our portfolio now 5 or 6 years, and they start to be quite established business. So that one example is, for example, Fintech that is based in San Francisco, and it is what we call cloud-based finance back office as a service. So that they have open API, so that basically anybody can develop fully regulated professional finance services on the top of the API, so that I would say that it's a little bit like legacy banking IT, but it is much more flexible and modern and cost effective in cloud. And there are many lending services, online banking services, investing services, real estate finance services, wealth management services that are basically built on the top of that. So it's one more established company in our group. Then we have actually another one that has activities also in Texas. That is actually a new model how people can manage their own finance data, so that people can actually own and keep a copy of their own finance data. This company is called Prefina. And basically the idea is that with blockchain type model, people could start to manage their own data and use it, for example, when they go to apply loan or basically use some other finance services. And basically it gives much more control and privacy also to users.
And so you mentioned the blockchain. Let's talk about the impact that blockchain technology has had specifically on fintech. It seems like most of the projects that are getting legs right now in the blockchain have something to do with fintech. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's complex combination, because I think that of course one important part has been ICOs. That ICOs has been a model to get funding. In some cases, I would say that it has been the way to get easy money. And I think that ICOs are maybe the most complex part of blockchain and crypto finance. And I would say that I believe that this kind of new models like blockchain, distributed solutions, smart contracts, they are going to come. They are going to come to all investments, to all finance services. At the same time, I feel that there are many issues with the existing ICOs, and it is not directly linked to the technologies or models, but it is much more linked to the underlying assets, that there are many cases that you have just empty white paper or something like that. So that it's important also to understand different components that what's going on at the moment. Then when we think blockchain as such, there are also many models how to do it. There are basically this proof of work model that is this heavy mining. And I would say that this heavy mining, for example, for Bitcoin, I don't know if it is the long-term solution, especially for some other applications than cryptocurrencies. And then, of course, it's linked to development in the whole finance sector, that banks used to dominate it. They were a kind of black boxes, including all services. And in the future, I believe that there will be much more companies that are offering different kind of niche services in the finance sector also, so that the whole finance sector will be more like a network of different services when now it has been dominated by, especially by banks.
So you mentioned that you have about 10 companies in your portfolio right now. If you were to pick the most interesting project that you're working on, which one is it? You don't have to say the name if you don't want to, but tell us what's the most interesting project in your portfolio right now.
I think that this Fintech and the finance back office, they have actually several interesting cases that are they are good examples that finance services will be very different in the future. There are cases that are more traditional, like banks are implementing new online services or mobile services on that back office. But then, just to mention, for example, real estate, there are a lot of innovations that how to finance your house and how even construction and real estate companies are looking for new models, a kind of crowdfunding models, but different kind of lending models. There are even cryptocurrencies that could basically give you ownership in an apartment, or there can be different kind of cryptocurrencies that there is just ownership, or there is another cryptocurrency to have ownership and also a right to live in the apartment, and basically give also more flexibility how you can basically decrease your ownership if you need money and increase if you have extra money. So that maybe those are not so fancy from the technology point of view, but I think that they are excellent examples that how the whole finance world is changing, and it's not only the banks that are implementing these, but there are many kind of companies. There is even one well-known person from the music industry who is planning or developing new platform how basically artists and bands could better manage their own tours and concerts and basically sell them themselves and basically have a kind of token model for that basically also have finance solutions for those, so that finance is needed in all services in the world in certain way. And I think that when we have a technology that can be more plug and play, that you can actually include finance to many other services, it opens opportunities for many kind of new innovations.
Absolutely. And so let's kind of take a step back here, and you're telling us about your company, your VC firm. Tell us a little bit about you. How did you end up from Finland, and you spent some time here in Austin, Texas, at the university for a while? Tell us a little bit about your journey to get where you are.
Actually, I made my first studies in computer science, so that my background is computer science, and I worked especially in mobile industry. As many guys during those days in Finland, I started to work with Nokia. That was then the leading mobile company in the world, and then I moved actually from Finland to Asia, so that I was running certain businesses in Asia. Then I came back to Europe. I basically was working for one of the leading management consulting companies in London. And after that, I made MBA studies. I was also in Texas and actually set up also one California-based tech company operations in Europe. And basically after that, I started to work with my own companies. And actually, the first my own company I worked full time was data analytics company, so that we made very advanced data analytics to analyze behavior and social networks of the people, especially for the marketing and the risk management and that kind of purposes. And that is a company we have exited. But so that in that way, I have quite a lot of history also with the technology.
Yeah, it sounds like with you have a pedigree and a lifetime of experience with technology, and that lends itself well to knowing who has the right stuff and who has the potential to really grow. And so, what do you think are some of the challenges that fintech innovation specifically is facing right now? Are there, for instance, there are regulatory challenges, there are technical challenges, there are adoption curve challenges. What are some of the things that fintech specifically is facing right now that you really need to overcome?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that maybe one challenge is there is certain hype that makes it more difficult for many parties to know what is real and what is not so real. And I think that ICOs is one example that they are definitely very good ICOs. Tokens are a great idea, but at the same time, there are cases that people just want to make quick money. And it makes for many people, including in business, difficult to basically make decisions that what to do and what is real opportunity, what is hype, and so on. And it actually create also additional problems with regulators that if there are cases that people lose money or something like that, it can easily cause some issues. Of course, I would say that finance is an area where people are more conservative. So that to basically get to some new services, it takes time. But I think that it is in many areas so that typically, as you also said, that I have a quite long history to work with some new solutions, and it's often so that development is first quite slow, that people talk about that, but not so many people use it. And then suddenly something happens, and basically all people go after new services. And it's always very difficult to predict the timing and even the factors of that moment when it really starts to go mainstream. And I would say that with fintech, we are still early days. Most of people use bank accounts and credit cards. Even they are very simple things that technically speaking, it is very easy to make bank account nowadays. You don't need 1 billion IT and 10,000 people to do it. And I think that it's going to happen, but it's very hard to say that what is the exact timing.
It's interesting, and it kind of folds into, my last question here about the financial technology. Where do you see, and you just mentioned that things happen very slow, and then they go really fast, and it's hard to predict. But let's give a reasonable amount of time, 5 years, 10 years. What major changes or innovations do you see in financial technology in that time?
Yeah, as I said, that the timing is difficult, but I remember that also when we worked with the social network analytics, and actually in 2005, one of our investors, when we started the first social network analytics tool, called me and said that don't use social in your product name because especially in the US, people might think that it is something communistic. And after 2 years, everybody was talking about social networks, so that things are sometimes surprising. But I would say that, of course, something like lending is very important part. That I actually think that people not talk enough about lending market, that the investing market and startup investing market has been the exciting part in crowdfunding and also with ICOs, but lending as a whole is huge market. And I would say that all people in the world are somehow linked to lending market. So that, for example, to get more lending services, but also, for example, much more data-oriented lending services. We have implemented solutions where, for example, company accounting system is linked directly to lending system, and even so that the secondary market of the loans can utilize the data and make better pricing for the loans and so on. I think that those are really significant things. Even maybe they are not the sexiest new applications, but I sometimes feel that in finance sector there are so many things that are not only directly new services to consumers, but what is happening inside the finance sector that can challenge the position of the traditional banks and value chain and models. Sometimes those invisible things to normal consumers might be even more significant than what is happening with your Apple Pay or some other consumer applications.
Jouko Ahvenainen from Grow VC Group. Where can our audience go to learn more about your company?
You can go to our website, that is growvc.com, and on the front page you can see basically the list of all our companies. We have actually quite active blog also, so that you can read news, and I also actually write to some other publications. One is, for example, disruptive.asia, so that if you Google my name, you can actually find quite a lot what I'm writing all the time, also that how I see the industry and the future.
Very good. Any final thoughts before we wrap here?
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I believe that there will be a lot of new exciting things in the finance services, and basically that the finance services is part of all services what we are using, so that it is becoming much more flexible to use finance services in the future.
Excellent. This has been Jouko Ahvenainen from Grow VC Group. If you'd like to learn more, you can visit growvc.com. That'll do it for this episode of the Future Tech Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first. In their covered wagons, they find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's blockchainfuturetechexpo.com. Thank you. You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.